Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we talk about digitally controlled analog gear and how it's totally changed my mix workflow. So in the audio world, when it comes to mixing and mastering and basically workflow, all of us have to choose at some point which school we want to be in. So there is the Outboard hardware school, there is the fully digital in the box school, and then there's the third school, and that's hybrid mixing. And most of us are in the first or third one, right? I don't know anyone who is completely 100% analog, because most everyone has some sort of, DAW or Pro Tools rig, and that is digital. However, as digital plugins become more and more prevalent and better sounding over time, outboard gear is becoming and has been pretty cumbersome to use if you want to use it in multiple instances over a mix. And for that reason, a lot of people just don't use outboard gear. But before we go any further, I should note that this is technically a sponsored video. The WesAudio stuff I have had in this video has been on basically long-term loan for me to use to basically get used to it and to show you guys. However, I'm not being paid to make this video, and I am legitimately just excited about the tweaks I've been able to make using this gear with my workflow. All thoughts and opinions are mine. So in a perfect world, if I could use a bunch of outboard gear, but be able to recall said outboard gear accurately and repeatedly, that would be like a perfect scenario for me, because I would be getting all the benefits of the analog realm, the saturation, the warmth, the sauce, the physical interaction that the audio has with the components of that individual piece of gear. But I would also be able to infinitely repeat settings and sounds as I see fit. WesAudio allows you to do just that. Now, in order to understand the impact and the change that the WesAudio outboard gear has had on my mix workflow, I have to explain how most people utilize outboard gear in the context of a hybrid mix setup. And that is, most of us, myself included, have settings that we have dialed in over time for outboard gear, and then we basically just kind of mix into that gear. This is what everybody does, and this is an efficient way to do things, meaning you're gain staging things on your sends and your inserts and in your DAW, and you are controlling how hard you hit the outboard gear in the digital realm when you send the signal out and it goes into the outboard gear and then comes back affected or wet. That is a good way to work, because you don't have to remember any individual settings for outboard gear. You can just basically set it and forget it for all intents and purposes. However, with things like compressors, there is no universal one setting that really works for everything, really. I mean, there's settings that work for basically anything, but really, you do want to kind of fine tune things to that individual mix or song. Now, this is where a company like WesAudio really changes my personal game for me, because they have digitally controlled analog hardware that I can control via a USB hookup to my computer. One cable lets me control multiple 500 series modules, whatever they got, EQ, compressors, or what have you. I can control with a plugin instance, a representation of that hardware, and set it to whatever I want, and I don't have to worry about the settings when I close down that project. Now, at this time, I think it's really important to note you do not need any of the actual plugin instances, the controlling software, to utilize the hardware. The software is basically like a bonus. So I have the Titan, which is the 500 series chassis. And in that chassis, I have the Rhea and the Dion compressors, along with a bunch of other stuff. However, I'm able to control each one of these with a single USB connection from the Titan chassis into my computer, and I can just make them be whatever I need them to be. However, I don't need any of the software. If I didn't want to use the software at all, I could still utilize this hardware just as a regular piece of hardware. And I could also utilize some of the functions that are on the face of each 500 series module, namely the ability to A and B 2 different settings. I've never seen that on other 500 series modules. Okay, so let's put everything together and let me show you in practical use how I use all of the WesAudio stuff and how it would look for you if you were incorporating anything from WesAudio into your mix. Now, we have the plugin instances of the RIA and the Dion. Now, again, these do not pass audio. This is simply a controller. This is a digital representation of the physical hardware that is right next to me. And as you can see, if I grab a knob, for example, the input, you will also see it move in real time. You know, the indicators move in real time on the hardware itself. See that? It's pretty cool. So this is the settings that I had for this particular project from The Undertaking for a song called And the Silver Surfer. Now, this song is a high energy toaster. I use the RIA, which is a very moo style compressor for the bus, for the instrumental bus, basically everything but the vocals. And then I use the Dion for a global, much softer, much gentler kind of leveling, including the vocals downstream, okay? You're gonna see both of these meters work at the same exact time the actual hardware is. Let's play a little bit of this mix.
Tired of empty conviction, find passion, find passion. Tired of hollow convincing, no one cares, I'm sorry, no one cares. Tired of sleepwalk connection, open your heart, open your heart. Once given an irreversible grace that I can't.
Now let's go ahead and tweak some of this. So the RIA is gonna be much less subtle than the Dion, okay? So I'm going to we're gonna bypass the Dion. You're not gonna hear much of a difference because again, this isn't doing too much. Also, I don't have the mix fully up and I also don't have the, I do have the mix all the way up here on the instrumental bus on the RIA. So if I wanna bypass these, you will also see it bypass on the actual hardware itself. Now this indicator here on the H-Link just lets me know that it has a good USB connection. The THD, Total Harmonic Distortion, is also very, very handy. Let's just play with some knobs. First on the RIA and then the Dion, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Tired of empty conviction, find passion, find passion. Tired of hollow convincing, no one cares, I'm sorry, no one cares. Tired of sleepwalk connection, open your heart, open your heart. Once given an irreversible grace that I can't seem to pick up. When I fall asleep, I think of all the things I let slip through my hands. It's not necessarily a nightmare, just a thing I fixate on. Not a dream, but a likely scenario that I fixate on. A nebula bursting into a million stars. New worlds, new possibilities that I fixate on. When I
So something you'll notice on the plugin versus the hardware, the plugin has A, B, and C states. I can flip through 3 different states of the plugin, tweak the settings however I want and flip through 3 different settings. I can only do that on the A and B versions of the actual hardware utilizing these buttons right here on the front. Okay, that's just something to know, although I still think that's an amazing feature because most of the hardware that I have, if not all of the hardware that I have, doesn't have an A and B way to really compare anyway, but because the pots are digital, you can do that right on the face of the Rhea and the Dion. Pretty cool. At the end of the day, what this has really meant for me is the WesAudio stuff has allowed me to just think less about my gear and just be in the moment. So I will bring up the instance of the plugin and I'll just start twisting dials, not physically over here, but in my DAW along with my other plugins, knowing that I am affecting the hardware, and then I set it and then I just forget it. And I don't have to worry about going from project to project because the settings are all different. That's okay because it's all digitally recallable and it just saves me time, but it saves me bandwidth up here to focus on the mix. And I think that's what's most important about any piece of gear, if it lets you focus on the task at hand. And the WesAudio stuff has done just that over the last 7 months. I've been using this stuff. It's really, truly amazing and it sounds fantastic and I'm absolutely in love with it and I can't do business without them. All the Bigable links down below in the description. And while you're down there, feel free to click that subscribe button to further support this channel. And with that, you've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.